All right, it's time to do some deciding. Of course, I get that echo again right away because I'm so dumb and I always forget to mute the Facebook feed, so it always comes right back in. All right, yeah, it's time to do some deciding. Welcome to GamesBeat Decides podcast, your weekly source for smart discussions about really dumb stuff. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb, and with me is my cohort and subordinate, Michael Minotti. Go ahead, try to say something nice, Mike.
All lies.
That's not nice. That's mean.
Well, you're mean. I have to counteract it by being mean. That's how the world works now. We're going to escalate the meanness.
I'm just trying to be accurate. Okay, well, Mike tried. We'll see if we can get something better out of him next time. So thank you all for joining us. Well, I mean, we're gonna make you nice whether I can, well, we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna really try hard. Thank you all for joining us. In today's episode, we're going to talk about co-op gaming during Thanksgiving, the Nintendo Switch, late night talk show hosts who are mean to Japanese role-playing games, and the legacy of the Nintendo Wii. But before
we can't just talk about late night talk show hosts being mean to JRPGs.
Well, we're definitely gonna talk about that at length, but we can't just talk about that.
Fair enough.
We're gonna jump into all those discussions in a moment. First, I want to let you guys know you can get more of us at GamesBeat.com. You can also email us at gamespluspodcast@VentureBeat.com. And finally, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're listening to, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, wherever. If you like us on Facebook as well, if you go to the VentureBeat page at facebook.com/VentureBeat, if you like that page, you also get notifications when we go live and watch us there live. I think finally, while you're on iTunes, please, leave us a review if it really helps us grow and find new listeners. So, Mike, that's my spiel. That's the first time we've done that spiel on this podcast. I think it went really well. What do you think?
You should be fired.
I'm actually starting to feel like I'm losing some confidence in myself, Mike, and this isn't helping.
You should not have much confidence because you're bad.
Well, okay. To distract myself from my failures, I want to ask you, how are you doing? What's your week been up to?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, things have been pretty nice. I've, I'm leaving next week for a big trip to the Disney World, see all the Christmas stuff down there. So, kind of just catching up on a lot of things right now. I saw Fantastic Beasts. I thought that was a lot of fun.
I want to see that.
You should. It's good.
Excellent. Okay, so before we kind of get into the topics, though, I want to talk about Dishonored 2 a little bit. I know you're playing some games maybe you can't talk about, so I'll take over this segment a little bit. I am reviewing Dishonored 2. A lot of people have already been playing it, already got the reviews out. It's taken me a little bit longer because while I like the game, I'm finding it really oppressive. Really hard to...
Oppressive?
Yes. Like, I'm finding the world itself dark and grimy, and all the people in the world are also dark and grimy, but they're also dirty and psychopathic. Not to use like mental issues as a pejorative, but they all have mental issues that are really hard to kind of deal with. Like they're all serial killers or they all beat their wives and stuff like that. And
right.
I'm not really jiving with that atmosphere right now. And I don't know. I typically I wouldn't really like that, but I'm really not liking it right now for some reason. And I think it's a shame because it's a really good game.
To me, just sometimes you just like, it's fine for a game to be dark or whatever, but sometimes, especially when it kind of feels like a lot of games are doing that, you're like, oh my gosh, can't something here, I don't know, be a talking cat?
Yeah, give me another Blinks the Time Sweeper. Give me that instead.
I was just thinking about that game the other day. There's some alternate universe somewhere where Blinks the Time Sweeper is like the big Microsoft mascot.
Yeah, it's like it's Mickey Mouse, Mario, and Blinks the Time Sweeper, yeah. Whatever it was. But yeah, I think, I don't know, back to Dishonored, though. It's just something about trying
it's ultimately a game about killing people.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's very violent, but, I mean, just to kind of let you know, like, where I'm coming from. Like, I played Doom, and I found that very violent and awesome, though. It's cool. Like, it makes you feel lighthearted in a place where you're in hell and there are demons and fire and you're ripping things apart and stuff like that. Like with your bare hands, you're ripping demons in half, like they're tissue paper. And that is, that's a lot. But I really dug that, like as like the heavy metal theme would like kick into place. But with Dishonored, it's not celebratory in any way. It just feels like it just feels dark. It just feels like this weight is on top of me whenever I'm playing the game, and I'm having a hard time.
It's not even about the actual violence. Like you said, in
Right.
Doom, it's very arcadey. You're doing it to, demons or whatever. But it's almost just more depressing when it's just like the world itself is kind of a crap hole, right? And you're just walking around like, oh, God, everything's awful here. And, if we acknowledge that video games are escapism, you have to say, well, why do I want to escape to a bad place? And sometimes, because it's interesting, there's an interesting story. And there are reasons, but sometimes you're just like, especially in this age of endless options, you're like, well, this is fun and all, but why am I doing this to myself? So this is awful.
Yeah, and the place is awful and the people are awful. I'm just not having a great time with that part of it. And like I said, it's still a very good game. So
and I think it's one of the reasons why Watch Dogs 2 was smart to kind of lighten up a little bit. And I think that's going to be a trend, maybe. I think a lot of these series are going to lighten up a bit. And I think it might be a good thing, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have anything else to discuss this week before we get into the topics, so we should probably just kind of jump right in. I think the first thing we should probably talk about, though, is it's Thanksgiving this week. Do you have any kind of big plans?
I mean, I always have a big family Thanksgiving. It's like the first time it's going to be like at one of my brother's places and not like at a parent's place, so that's kind of interesting, for a 29-year-old fella like me. So, but yeah, it'll be fun. I don't know. I'm one of those people, like, I like Thanksgiving, but I look ahead a little bit. I like Christmas a lot. My birthday's in early December, and I'm one of those big make a deal about their own birthday obnoxious people, of course. So.
You're the worst.
Yeah, so yeah, this is all about like this is like the start of Christmas for me, and I know people hate that kind of stuff. That's kind of how I look at it, and I get excited.
I've actually come around on that. I put my Christmas tree up last night. I haven't decorated it yet, but I put it up last night because I'm actually, I got a buddy in town. My cousin just moved to Denver. He's going to be coming over for Thanksgiving. We're going to have a pretty, not a huge Thanksgiving, but a decent-sized one, and it's going to be at my place. So I was getting excited, and I'm like, we might as well put up the Christmas tree.
To have that up when everyone's there.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, it's just going to be me and Steph when it is Christmas. So we're like, let's get it up, have everyone enjoy it. And that'll be the only Christmas decoration we have up, but I'm glad to put it up. But what I also wanted to talk about is, so for Thanksgiving, I'm planning on, once, after we're done eating and watching some football, playing maybe some cooperative couch games. Because there's going to be like about 4 to 5 people, which is kind of like the right number to have, put up something like, I was thinking like Diablo 3 on the console. So I was wondering, what is the best co-op couch kind of family gathering game that we can play?
Diablo 3 is definitely my favorite co-op couch game in the last while, but that's, you kind of,
it's intense.
It's an intense game, relatively speaking, right? You can't get your mom in on it. It's something like maybe I want everyone to play. Something that immediately comes to mind was You Don't Know Jack for that was Xbox 360 now. I wish I would make another one of those, but that was always a fun game for me because at the end of the day it's basically still trivia, but it has enough kind of flavor to it that it's fun. But there was like that period of time, right, where we had all these Wii and Kinect games where it's like we can make our whole families play, and you'd do it for maybe 20 minutes and do something else, but it was like fun for a bit. Everyone was involved, and now it's like, yeah, I don't really know what I would do with the whole family these days, co-op wise.
So my thought is, Diablo 3 will probably be a tough one to kind of engage people within at first, but if it happens, I wouldn't mind, playing that all night with a bunch of people. But I'm thinking what's more realistic is something like, and you kind of stumbled on it a little bit with You Don't Know Jack, is those Jackbox party games. The ones where, it's from the people that made You Don't Know Jack, but it's like this package of mini games, word games, basically everything you play on your TV. And instead of using your a Xbox One controller, everyone uses their smartphone as a controller. So everything's up on the screen, and you could just log into a website on your phone, and then you're part of it. And everyone's familiar with their phone, so it's like such a lower barrier to entry that I think that's a really smart one to kind of go with.
One thing I am going to do is bring my NES Classic over and see if anybody wants to play some of those 2-player games. And that'll actually get some attention from even people who normally wouldn't care, just because it's kind of becoming this hot ticket item, right? Even my parents know what it is, and they know it's hard to see one, so you can dazzle them a little bit. Look what I got from work. And they'll be like, "Ah, we need to see this." It'll be fun. But, again, those games are kind of, they're old enough that they can be simple enough that a person can pick up and play a little bit. I don't think I'm gonna, beat Super Contra with my mom, but it'll be fun.
I mean, you never know.
See what people think.
Your mom's got lead skills, so of course.
Right.
But so what you were saying about dazzling people with stuff you got from work, though, that's my other thing. So if Jackbox Party Pack doesn't work or whatever, then I'm gonna shift to virtual reality probably.
I mean, it'll be fun to show people virtual reality, but that's not very cooperative.
No,
right?
but that's exactly the thing. I'm gonna play that Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes game where one person's in the headset. One person is trying to defuse a bomb, and they're using a controller or whatever. And I actually just got, I don't know if I could say this, the touch controllers. Who knows? If I get in trouble, whatever. I just got the Oculus touch controllers. I also have the Vive.
Oculus.
Yeah, and we'll have someone someone will be in there trying to defuse the bomb, and then everyone is outside with like a manual trying to explain how to defuse the bomb to the person in there. So it's like a very cooperative game, but it's, asymmetrical or whatever. And I'm really excited to see how stuff like that works, because I know everyone's going to want to see the VR. People have already told me when they're over they want to try it out. So it's like, all right, here's a good way to get everyone involved, and so people don't. So my wife doesn't start glaring at me that we're not doing something that involves everyone.
Fun. I mean, even it's kind of fun to watch people do VR for the first time, see
Right.
their reactions even to that stuff. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. Beyond that, there's stuff like Overcooked on Xbox One, I think, or PlayStation 4. I'm actually just going to go out and get it and play it for the first time. I've heard good things where it's like this game where four players are trying to run a kitchen, and it's very much like one of those. Like a kitchen management game might be like that genre where there's always things coming in, and you're always trying to take the ticket, make the order, run the order.
Somebody who like worked in line cooking for a little bit. That kind of sounds like a flashback.
Yeah, you're gonna have some PTSD and stuff. So totally. Yeah, I don't know. I think we could probably move on, but I feel pretty good. I'm definitely gonna go with the VR though, and Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. If I can only choose one, I think that's probably the one I should go with.
NES Classic and see if people think it's cool. It'll be fun.
Yep. Sounds good. Okay, I think it's time to move on, Mike. So the next topic is going to be the Nintendo Switch. So last week we talked about the NES Classic a lot, and I floated some ideas about maybe talking about that more this week, but we kind of overdid it a lot that last week. So we're going to move on to Nintendo's future instead of its past. So some news came out. I think it's Let'sPlayVideoGames.com, I think is the website. They've done a lot of really great reporting on the Switch. They've gotten a lot of stories right before Nintendo confirmed it. And they are now reporting that the system is going to cost £200 in Europe, or in the UK when it launches, and then £250 for like a deluxe version. And she's the reporter, who I think his name is Laura Kate Dale, also said that that's going to track conversion-wise across the globe, which would mean that it would cost $250 in the United States and then $300 for the deluxe version. Now,
what would be the difference?
Probably storage size. Yeah, probably just that. So I think that's going to be my question. Do you think it can cost $250? Is it going to cost? Okay, let's just call it out. Is it going to cost more or less than $250?
Not going to cost less than that. I can't see that. I mean, when the 3DS came out and it was like too expensive, everyone complained. That was 200. That was 250.
Yep.
Right. I know they changed it pretty quickly because they realized it was high, but still, that's what they went with. It's hard for me to imagine the next system that I know it's a kind of a portable, but it's still a home console, is going to cost that much. I don't know, but I guess they've released systems this price. For the Wii launched at $250, right?
That's right.
What the Wii U launched at $300, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was $300 and $350 for the deluxe for the Wii U, right?
Exactly. So I don't know, $250 even for a base model. That seems it's not outside the realm of possibility, but I'm not gonna buy that it can be any cheaper than that.
So for reference, this Nintendo's working with NVIDIA on this, and the NVIDIA Shield, the last generation model, actually it's basically 2 generations ago now, the tablet, is $200, and it was always $200. and it's pretty similar, but not quite exactly the same thing as what Nintendo's going to have. You would think though that just the fact that Nintendo and Nvidia are working together, like it's going to have to increase in price because Nintendo has to pay Nvidia or for its chips or whatever.
And then you have like that, those the Joy-Cons.
That's right.
You have like that
the base station
kind of port. Yeah, I don't know what you call it. Where the dock is what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that deluxe version will come with the Pro controller also, or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's going to cost as much as an Nvidia Shield for sure.
So then, I mean, on the other end, do you think? Well, I think it's probably going to be cost $250, $300. I think this is exactly right. This report. Do you buy that there's going to be two models, $250 and $300?
Maybe Nintendo always likes, or they have liked to do that so that they can say like, oh look, here's the a lot of people have done this, right? So you can say starting at $250,
right.
Even though chances are we're all going to want more storage space with how many digital games we buy these days, right? And we don't really know like if there's an easy way to increase the storage capacity of the Switch, right? So you might want to kind of go in strong with the base on that.
So I think the people are thinking there's going to be an SD card slot. So you can just like Nintendo's had in every one of their systems since the Wii, right? The Wii, even like the DSi, I think had the SD card slot. So it's like the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS. So Nintendo's pretty comfortable with using SD cards, even though SD cards are the way that hackers have been able to get homebrew and then illegal ROMs running on video on their systems, and that's been a problem for them. But they still seem pretty comfortable with that idea. And I think the rumor has also been that it's going to have an SD card slot. So, but at the same time, I mean, the Wii U had an SD card slot, but you still needed a kind of a hard drive to run a lot of those games. And if it's similar to that, you're probably still going to want the more deluxe model, just because having that built-in storage that high quality is probably going to be better. And I think the rumors it's going to be between 32 gigabytes for the lower model and then like 128 for the bigger one. That's pretty good.
Not going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to need to expand it no matter what. No matter what you get, you're going to need more space. But yeah, I think this pricing model makes sense. I agree with you though. It's not going to be $200. I am surprised that it's even going to be like 200 pounds, $250 kind of to start. I was always leaning towards $300, $350.
That's what always sounded right to me. I mean, maybe somewhere a little below or above that. Who knows? Maybe they don't have to so rigidly be on the. Does it have to be 250 or 300? Can it be a 280 or something?
It definitely could be, and that's possibly. They could just try to do that, like $279.99. I could see them trying to pull that off, and I feel like they've done that before. But I'm not.
Once they changed the price of the 3DS, it was what,
That's
170
right.
or 180 right. Or something.
And they might be more comfortable doing that with the Switch because it is a hybrid and it's so different. It's going to attract both of its portable, their handheld fans and their home console fans. So maybe they'll want to like split that difference a little bit to appeal to everybody. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the price talk. Do you have any other thoughts on it, Mike?
No, just, again, I think that range sounds pretty good because I don't see it being lower than 250. I don't see it being higher than 300. So I don't know if I necessarily totally believe that this, like the details of this, the two models, but it all sounds believable enough.
All right, excellent. So
paying $250 for a Switch. That's
right.
kind of what I'm getting at. I think I am going to be paying $300 for one.
I agree with you. I think that's what I'm going to be paying as well. But yeah, when I get that receipt, it's not going to say $250 kind of no matter what. Okay, so moving on. This past week, Square Enix paid the Turner Broadcasting System Network to have their late night host Conan O'Brien play the video game Final Fantasy 15. And Mike, it didn't go well. Did you saw this, right? Yeah, so you saw it, and it's basically what happened is, if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy, these games could be pretty impenetrable on their kind of in the past. Now, Final Fantasy 15 looks like potentially like it's the most impenetrable one of these games yet. It's like there's like Versace like purses, and there's like Audi cars, and it takes place on another world or something like that. And a car breaks down in like the first couple minutes of the game, and you're pushing the car, and Conan O'Brien's playing all this stuff, and he is losing it. He does not understand what's happening at all. And I'm wondering, Mike, is this bad for Final Fantasy? Was Conan bad for the game?
It wasn't. This is like the new ultimate example, I think, of just video game nerds taking things way too seriously. The NeoGAF thread on this was just incredible. The funniest quote, if somebody said something, is like, I want to change the title of this thread to Comedy Man Ruins JRPGs Forever. And that's what people were acting like. And I know Conan was definitely hard in the game, probably more so than he ever has been before. But it's not like he likes most of the games. He doesn't like any of the games he plays. The whole point of it is that Conan doesn't play video games. Ha ha ha. This is fun. It's like when I have my mom play a game. If my mom did it like Final Fantasy 15, would people take that seriously? It's whatever. It's not an indictment on the game. So I mean, it is strange for Square Enix to do this, and I guess they just want whatever publicity. But it's obviously a game that Conan O'Brien is not going to be able to get a handle on, and and he said it was the longest he spent playing a game. So what? That was probably 30 minutes or so. It's not like he was in there for hours. And they can even tell they're kind of jumping him around from place to place, so he wasn't really getting like the whole connected. It's how you feel stupid right now, justifying why I didn't like the game. It's Conan O'Brien, and he's playing the game for his comedy bit, and it was funny. It was funny for him. Some of the things he says are true, and we all know these things about JRPGs, how they're kind of silly, and it's funny to see somebody who's not used to it,
yeah, who hasn't accepted it.
This is so strange, right? Yeah, and it's a funny comedy bit. But this idea that all these people are going to see this and be like, Final Fantasy 15 is awful because Conan O'Brien said it was. It's like, oh, come on.
So, and you're right, there was a lot of people who were on these forums who were kind of upset that Conan did this and kind of upset with Square Enix for paying him. But you're right, who was going to buy this game that, I mean, okay, I don't know, maybe people have in their heads that, the game needs to find this mainstream audience to really succeed. But I don't think that was ever in the cards. I don't think this game was ever going to appeal to anyone who wasn't already thinking about the game and thinking about maybe buying it. So Conan coming in and making fun of it did no damage. I don't think it didn't really do anything that could really hurt the game, unless you had it in your head maybe the guy that goes to see all the Marvel movies who doesn't really play video games, he just plays Call of Duty, he's going to see how cool this is, and finally JRPGs are going to be back on top. I just never thought that was possible.
No, probably not. It is kind of strange, right? Who knows what the projections are for this or what they're thinking of. I don't know if I care so much in a way, I love Final Fantasy. For people who don't know, I played all of them. I'm really into this series, so I'm not just saying this as some guy doesn't care about the games. Who cares? Conan O'Brien doesn't like it, But it is this other kind of weird thing too, where this age where fans become so invested in not just how good a game will be, but its performance and how well they'll do. They kind of act like stockholders in a way, and I understand that to a degree because you have an invested interest in something, and if it does well, there's going to be more of it, and so on. But it's just strange, all these people in the forum being like, why would Square Enix do this? Why are they hurting themselves? And they had a good humor about it. They tweeted hey, haha, that was funny. And who knows, I'm sure internally they're like, I don't know. But I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
I am curious with Final Fantasy 15, just how that's going to do and how it's going to be received, right? It's one of the most interesting games in a while. Because it's funny because it's the anti-Final Fantasy 13 in a lot of, which a lot of people complained about. It's open world, right? It's just a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's still it's simultaneously very different from every Final Fantasy game, which has the danger of kind of throwing those fans off, but still is kind of knee deep in a lot of those sort of Japanese isms and JRPG isms that it still might not be able to reach a mainstream audience. Gosh, it's interesting. I wish that I wish somebody who had been playing the game was able to say something more about it right now. But
if only we had one of those. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's been in development for 10 years, so I could see why Square Enix wants it to appeal to a wider audience. I can see why fans who want more of these games want it to appeal to a wider audience. I just don't get why anyone thought it actually would, because it just doesn't. It's not. That's not RPGs. JRPGs just aren't that genre anymore. They aren't Final Fantasy VII.
I think that's why it's not super JRPG. I mean, who knows? If the game does Metal Gear Solid 5 numbers, right? And that game did fine, right?
Yeah.
I think it would be a success. And Metal Gear Solid kind of has the same issues, right? It was like a game that back when pretty much all the games we played were Japanese, that it was, big deal. It was like one of the premier things. Now it's a bit more niche, but still it gets the lavish AAA production, and it can still get, maybe mainstream's not the word, but gamer mainstream, if you know what I mean, right?
Right.
Like, you're not going to get the Call of Duty bros in on it, but you'll get the Zelda people, kind of, right? And so forth.
I don't know. I've tried playing some Final Fantasy games. I haven't been able to get into any of them. Except for 6 on the SNES. I didn't even finish that, but I played that for like 50 hours or whatever it was.
I mean, don't underestimate the series. I mean, even Final Fantasy 13, which was kind of derided, it still sold millions of copies. There's still some weight behind that brand.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that there isn't like a built-in audience. That built-in audience is there, and it's huge, and it's the reason why Square can probably still afford to spend 10 years making a AAA big budget blockbuster video game. If they didn't have that, this game wouldn't make any sense at all. But I still think we're entering a period where, we saw it with Konami. They made Metal Gear Solid 5, but is Metal Gear Solid 6 going to be anywhere near as costly? No. And I don't think Final Fantasy 16, unless 15 does break out, is going to be anywhere near as costly. Because these companies are just seeing like mobile games, make all this money with, and they cost what, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 to make, as opposed to Final Fantasy 15, which probably cost tens of millions of dollars to make.
Well, Final Fantasy 15 probably has no chance of actually like making a profit just because it's in development for so long, right? I mean, it's basically its whole thing is like, all right, let's get some kind of return on the investment we had in on this. If, Final Fantasy is all over mobile right now, anyways. I think there would be a big backlash if it only went mobile, which, obviously. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying a little bit, but that could be true of a lot of these kind of, not super A-tier franchises anymore, even though it makes me a little uncomfortable even call Final Fantasy that, because it's, it's Final Fantasy. Maybe for me, it's just hard because, I'm just invested in this stuff. It'll be interesting to see, because there hasn't been very many numbered Final Fantasy games besides, like, that aren't MMOs, right? In a while. Even 13 came out a long time ago, and that was the only one that came out in that era. I mean, it had its weird sequels and whatnot, but that stuff's always kind of niche. We don't have a lot of examples really to know how is a Final Fantasy game going to sell these days, right? Like, here it is, Final Fantasy 15, single player, open world, big sprawling epic. We had a whole event to stream it. We had that guy from Breaking Bad there. This is a big deal. Is it going to be a big deal? I guess is the question, and that could almost be the topic. Is Final Fantasy 15 actually going to be a big deal?
I think we should come back to that, like when you can talk, when whoever's playing it can talk about it, and then we'll see at that point kind of whether or not we have any better ideas of whether or not it'd be a big deal. I will say at this point, however, that Conan will not be the reason it is or isn't a big deal.
We should definitely blame the TBS comedy man.
Yes, the comedy man ruining RPGs. Oh no.
Exactly.
Take on the comedy man. All right, Mike. I think that's going to do it for that topic. Let's move on to our final discussion. And this one, I think we should actually try to rank them. Let's just go for it. What were the best Wii games? You want just to do a top 5?
Sure. I know what 1 and 2 are.
Yes. Well, okay. Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
What order?
It's a little interesting. I think 2 might be better still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we. All right. Well, that's out of the way. All right. So then, what's the rest of the list?
Sword's got to be in there somewhere. I know Skyward Sword's kind of divisive. I know it's on that part of the Zelda cycle where it's the last one that came out, so some people are kind of hard on it. I really liked Skyward Sword. I thought it was like the one. It was like the one like full like 30-hour game, right? That smartly used motion controls pretty much the entire time. It had the Wii Motion Plus thing. You actually had the one-to-one sword controls, so it actually mattered if you were aiming high or aiming low or doing a swipe or an overhead. Like that was pretty neat, and it was something different for Zelda. Like it wasn't just go in there and push the A button and attack them, or it wasn't like Twilight Princess God where you just swaggle and that means pushing the A button. Like I wouldn't put Twilight Princess on there.
No.
For one, I don't like it as much as Skyward Sword anyways, but even still, it's still like, even after all this time, I'm like, is that a Wii game?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is. I played it on the Wii. It came out on the Wii, but it still just doesn't feel very Wii.
Yeah, it feels almost like cheating. But you bring up a point there, though. I mean, we are talking about Wii games. I mean, this Skyward Sword, you're right, did use motion controls. But then I think it's easy to kind of like throw games like Wii Sports Resort out because you're like, oh, it's lag and stuff. But Wii Sports Resort was a very good game, and I think should probably be on the top 5.
I could put. I'll relent on that a little bit, but partly because it was fun. It was a big deal. I would almost put the original Wii Sports above it. I know it was like much less advanced.
Well,
that was a game I played with people a lot and had fun with, especially the bowling and tennis.
I mean, I could give you Wii Sports over Wii Sports Resort. Because you're right, it was Wii Sports was much more appealing to more people, and I think specifically because it was less advanced. It was just you could be inaccurate, and it didn't really matter, which was really great for the crowd it was appealing to. And the other reason why I can kind of relent on this, even though like I'm not usually a big fan of these kind of games, is like I can't think of too many other things that are like this has to be on that list, right? We were kind of talking about this, with the NES Classic. You can pick the 30 games that are on it, and you can have blind spots. You told me to like pick 30 Wii games, and it's crazy to think about that for a system that sold over 100 million copies. Yeah.
But and there was a lot of stuff on it that was fine. There was like Zack and I was going to say Zack and Miri.
I was going to say the same thing.
Porno people. the adventure game with all the puzzles, like that was fun.
Yeah,
there was like a No More Heroes for it that was fine. There was a version of Resident Evil 4 that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
But like, let me think about like big Nintendo games that were Wii exclusives, right? So you have Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, which it's just not as good as Metroid Prime 1, so it's got that going. Metroid Other M, which I actually like Other M. No one else does. But I wouldn't say top 5. I know everyone hates Other M. Donkey Kong Country Returns 1.
Not as good as Tropical Freeze.
Like, you know what? New Super Mario Brothers Wii, that was back before, like, the whole New Super Mario Brothers thing became very gauche and, like, overdone. At that point, I was like, oh, this is like Super Mario World 2, and not Yoshi's Island. That was exciting at the time. Do I really need to go back and play that?
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
I would agree with on New Super Mario Brothers Wii. It was very, very good at the time. I remember playing it like that Christmas it came out and just being like, whoa, this is like a really great platformer. But you're right, at this point, there's just been too many, and then like New Super Mario Brothers 2 came out for the 3DS, and I didn't like it at all, and I'm just like, what happened? What is Nintendo doing with this series where it's just running it into the ground? So I would be like, before I would put that on the list, I would put like Punch Out. Like Punch Out would be like, I would want Punch Out in at number. Punch Out was incredible on the Wii. It was so good. It was still Punch Out, but they did it in like that cell shaded 3D. They brought forward all the characters, and they had like really great animation. But it still had that phenomenal, pattern recognition design that was, great on the NES and great on the Super NES. But it was just so much more lively because the characters were if you haven't played the game, they kind of let you know how what the attack they're going to do by like the way they're moving and stuff like that, and the noises they make. And the Wii was so much more advanced than the Super Nintendo, which is the last time we got a Punch Out game. That those tells were so much more visibly obvious, or at least visible and unique, that it made that whole game design work so much better. And I really liked that game. I don't know. Did you ever play it?
No, I liked it a lot. It's just the kind of one gripe I can have against it is that you think about a Wii game, you're like, oh, we're Punch Out, we're gonna be punching with the controller thing, and you do it like that, and it like doesn't work because it's not reliable. So you gotta turn the stupid controller around like you're holding an NES controller, and it's like this is how we're playing in 2008.
You're not wrong, but yeah, we already got a Wii game on there.
The game was fun.
Wii Sports is on there. So we'll count Wii Sports and then Punch Out at 5. That's my argument. I mean, what else would you put up there? I mean, do you have like something in mind?
And it's weird because you think usually what Nintendo does are these really great first party games, but there were just a lot on that system that like Kirby's Epic Yarn was fine. Yeah. Super Paper Mario was fine. Wario Land Shake It. WarioWare, the one where you shake things. Right? There was the Mario Kart game, and it was a good Mario Kart game. The other ones that came out there were better. The Smash Brothers for it was kind of a disappointment.
I didn't like that at all.
There's Mario Party games for it. And I'll tell you one thing. It's a good thing those games had the Galaxy games. That system had the Galaxy games. Those games are just so good. It would be like the one reason. And I like those. I like some of those games. I like Skyward Sword a good deal too. But like the one reason why I'll hold on to my Wii is because like someday I might need to play Mario Galaxy 1 or 2 again. Because those are just phenomenal.
And I mean, they actually came out with a Super Mario Galaxy 2 is on the eShop for the Wii U, so I was actually playing it on there. So you might not need your Wii anymore. But you're right. If they didn't have the Galaxy games, things would have been a lot more bleak. A few years out, looking back at that system, it would have been like, oh wow, this thing was actually kind of really depressing to play games on. And that bore out in the terms of like. The 360 and the PlayStation 3, by the end, so many more people were buying more games for those systems that even if the Wii had more units out there, it was at that point considered a failure because publishers couldn't sell anything on them. Even Nintendo was struggling to sell new games on the system. So it was like, okay, we need to go to the systems that are succeeding, and by that we mean have a high attach rate for software to hardware. And
first, you saw all these developers going out of their ways to make Wii versions of their games because of the archaic hardware, they couldn't just port things. You had the Wii version of Call of Duty 3, right? And how much the Wii version of Force Unleashed, and they were completely different games, and all this work went into them, and no one bought them.
Yep, and it just ended up in the end kind of feeling like a system that was a distraction from the games you wanted to be playing.
It's kind of having a rough legacy, isn't it? It doesn't help that the Wii U, its child is even kind of a disaster. And it's strange to think, after the Wii was the biggest phenomenon in gaming in so long. It's kind of strange that now its legacy is kind of this mixed bag where it led Nintendo astray, and it didn't maybe make as much money as you thought it was making. And looking back, there aren't that many great games for it now.
So and this list is hard. I mean, I'm at 5. I'm not that passionate about it. I'm like, by the time we get from 1, 2, 3, 4 to that last spot on the list, I mean, I would like to put Punch Out on there, but if it wasn't on there, that's fine because I'm still not that passionate about Punch Out because, there's just nothing there that I really care about.
That I can really only think of 3 games that I am passionate about. 3 games that I would, to put my reviewer's hat on, give a 9 or better to.
Right.
Punch Out's a very good 8.8 maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. So we have Super Mario Galaxy 2 at 1, Super Mario Galaxy at 2, Zelda Skyward Sword at 3, Wii Sports at 4, and then at 5 you want to just do Punch Out, or do you have something else? I don't think you really said anything. Okay. That's our list, and kind of doing that right there, that whole process kind of bummed me out for the Wii.
So maybe people can help us out and let us remember the hidden gem.
Yeah, I'm sure people have a game they are passionate about that we're just missing. And if you do, games+podcast at VentureBeat.com. And Mike, I think that's going to take us into the outro. I don't think I have any other games I want to mention on the Wii, right? Nothing else for you?
No.
All right, well, yeah, that brings us to the end then. And Mike, before we kind of get out of here, I want you to tell everyone where they can find you on the internet, your Twitter. You have another podcast you want to tell people about?
Yeah, well, I'm always writing on GamesBeat, so keep going to GamesBeat.com to check out what we're doing on there. We've got a little thing going up for a link to the past 25th birthday today. And we know we're working on some shopping guides, gaming themed, coming up here. But besides that, you can follow me on Twitter at Tolkoto, Tolkoto. I'm also on the Exploding Barrel podcast. That's a podcast I do with my brother. We talk about games and a lot of other kind of nerd culture things. We usually take it just one topic for a whole show. You can search for Exploding Barrel on iTunes and all that stuff. Or go to ebpodcast.com to find that show. And that's it for me.
And I am Jeff Grubb on Twitter. Find me there, follow me, say hi. Also, you can follow
more professional than mine.
And you can follow GamesBeat by following GamesBeat on Twitter as well. And I'm on GamesBeat.com as well. You know, we're always writing stories every day. Me and Mike have new stuff up, a couple stories a day at least. And then in addition to that, I make some videos on YouTube sometime. You can get those on youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. A lot of those can be for GamesBeat stuff. A lot of those are just for fun. So check that out as well. And Mike, I think that's going to do it. So I think we are done with the GamesBeat Decides podcast for this week.
That's good.
All right. Thanks everyone for showing up, and we're going to say goodbye. Until next week.
Bye-bye.